Well, first off, welcome to Iowa State Wrestling. I guess this is our third edition as a coaching staff here in Ames, and so we're pretty excited about that. I guess in terms of an opening statement, I think every year looks a little different, and this is probably a much different look than we had the first 2 years. I think it's probably a look of, these guys have kind of arrived, and I think this team over here made a statement in college wrestling last year just in terms of progress. And so I'm really excited to see how we can keep that going this year. I think they've developed a reputation to be kind of maybe the hunted a little bit this year, and that's a different role than being the hunter. And when you're the hunted, you have to know what you're up against, and you got to train to be the hunted. And I think I don't know what the rankings are. They've got us somewhere between 7th and 11th, but you get those with respect and accomplishments. And so we had some good accomplishments last year, maybe not great accomplishments, but good accomplishments. And so, this year we're looking to build on that. And, we want to have a great season by the end of the year. Can you put a number on that? No, you can't put a number on it, but it's time for Iowa State Wrestling to be a top 10 team and then eventually progress into being a top 5 team. And, that's probably as bold of a prediction as I'm going to get right now. So with that, I'll open it up to you guys.
Coach, the progression seems fast. This is year 3. What do you credit kind of the quick turnaround to?
Well, I'm old, so it has to happen fast, all right? My mom gets mad when I said I'm old, so I'm really not that old. But, I talk a lot about having a sense of urgency. A 5-year career for a college kid isn't long. These guys are the pro athletes of our division, of the folk style sport. These guys are the pro athletes, and so you don't have to wait around to get it done. And I think I've always had that mentality is that it's okay to try to win early and win often. And, we haven't probably done that a lot yet, but I do think you're right. I think that we opened some eyes, but I told these guys last year, even before we had our press day last year, that, if you guys make up your mind to be a top 20 team or a top 15 team, you'll be a top 15 team. Now that was for a team that was ranked 47th in the nation at the beginning of last year at this time. So I think sense of urgency is the word there.
Coach, is about expectations more than goals? Because you said you don't really want to put a number on it, X number of All-Americans, just about if guys meet their internal expectations.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think that's what you say. I think, it's about expectations, because let's face it, this year's going to be a little bit goofy with all of the Olympic red shirts and really not knowing who's in and who's not in. Even for some of the great wrestling prognosticators out there, they're all scratching their head wondering if this guy's going to be in the lineup, if this guy's going to be in the lineup, what's the Big 12 going to look like? Is the Oklahoma State guy going to be here? Is the Iowa guy going to be there? Is the Penn State guy going to be there? So it's going to be a fun year. It really is.
David Carr is obviously a guy we've heard a lot about. What's your expectations for him, and what can he do this year?
Well, we want to win everything, and that's coming out of David's mouth more than my mouth, because if you spend any time around him, every time he shakes hands, he expects to win. So if he gets 170 chances to shake hands in college, he's going to try to win 170. If he gets 107, he's going to try to win 107. So is that pressure? You know what? In David's mind, it is, and I think it's exciting, and I think it's a challenge. And we got a lot of excited guys in this room, very, very excited guys, and to prove themselves. And let's face it, David's got a chance to prove himself this year at Division I wrestling. He's never had a chance to prove himself at Division I wrestling. Redshirt year doesn't really count. He gets to get in there every weekend this year. So we've got a lot of guys that have a lot to prove, and are excited about that.
How exciting is it to have a junior world gold medalist on your
Well, I guess according to all the stats at Iowa State, I think they've been doing the junior worlds for almost 20 years, and he was the first one. So we sure like that. Yeah,
what can having him in the lineup do for the team as a whole this year?
Well, he's just such a positive guy. His parents did such a great job of raising him to be, the grass is always green and the glass is always half full in his world, even on hard days. And he brings that, and I think that carries a long ways, and it picks guys up. And so he's great with our recruits. He's great with our the media. He's great with our fan base. He's great with our alumni, and he's great with our team. So, he's kind of the total package right now.
What kinds of steps did he take over the last 12 months or so while he was sitting out and competing on attacks?
I think the thing he learned the most is that college wrestling is hard, that folk style wrestling is hard. I mean, let's face it, the kid went out and lost his very first college match last year at the Cyclone Open. And you know what? I learned a lot about him on that weekend because he lost. He was overamped. He had a really good guy the first round because he was a freshman, and he went out and tried to pin him 17 times in the first minute and threw himself to his back 16, and he ended up losing, but he had to come back and win 5 times, I think, to get third. And I learned a lot about David Carr right then, that not everything's going to go perfect, even for David Carr. So it's just a sign of, to me, that was a sign of maturity right there.
Coach, having Chase Straw move up to 165 in a class that had the lowest amount of dual wins last year, do you think 165 is better for Chase in the way that he wrestles in his body?
Chase has looked great. Obviously winning that Big 12 championship probably gave him a lot of confidence, but he has looked great. I'm excited to see. Is he, he's not the biggest 65. He probably gets up to 71, 72, but you know what? The guy's going to have a tank in the third period, and, you better be ready to go all 7 minutes if you get Chase Straw this year.
Who's a guy that had a good season last year that is primed to make a jump this season?
Hopefully 9 of them, right? So, I think we got a lot of exciting guys. We're excited about Alex Mackel. Guy went 2-2 in the Nationals. Obviously, Austin Gomez got a lot of people excited. Ian Parker, he's beaten some really, really good guys. Obviously, Jared Dagan doing what he did. Marcus Coleman, Sam Colbray, all had good wins last year. Colbray had some really good wins. And then Gremmel, really made progress. And he's a guy right now that I see in the room that's really, kind of learning how to just compete day in and day out and be tough. And last year, as kind of a first-year varsity guy, he struggled with the day in and the day out. So, really the only weight right now that we're kind of really, really green at is 197. So we got to, figure out which one of those guys is going to step up.
How important is it for them for those 197 guys to just not think about replacing Willie Michaelis and just wrestle the way that they know how to wrestle instead?
Well, we don't know how they wrestle yet, so that's the problem, right? We got to see how they wrestle, all right? But, we've seen good things out of Shapiro and Dugan both, but, throw them out, turn the lights on at Hilton Coliseum, and it's just you and one other guy, then you really find out what they're made out of. So I know they're both excited about that. I don't know if they quite know what that all means, but they're going to figure out real quick here. One of them's going to figure it out by November 16th.
What's the next step for Jarrett? And it seems like he's kind of symbolized the progression, being a guy who comes with you. He's the lone NCAA qualifier, lone returning podium guy. What's next for him, and how big has he been to the program?
Well, he's tough as nails. He's obviously a really hard draw for anybody. Nobody wants to draw Jared Dagan in any tournament because he's just so unorthodox. And he's turned into a good leader. He's a kind of a lighthearted guy, but I think everybody in the room knows that if you get him, you gotta have to go hard and go the whole time. So I like the way that he's kind of embraced being a leader, because last year not that he wasn't a leader, he was kind of quiet behind the scenes. I've seen him step up as a junior. We still only have one senior on this team, just one guy. So it's still a pretty young team, and I see that he wants to take over the next 2 years in that respect.
I know Gomez is wrestling off at 41. I know he's on his way down. When should we expect him to be down?
He should be down in the next little bit. He really likes tacos, and he really likes extra cheese on his tacos, and so we're just hoping that he has that baby soon, and then he can be one weight class lower.
What's going to be the plan for Julian Broderson? Are you still going to consider redshirting him, or considering he's the backup to Colbert at 184? What's going to be the plan for him?
Probably redshirt him. We've seen some good things out of Julian. He's a typical freshman. One day it's like wow, and the next day it's like whoa. And then it's wow, and then it's whoa. But he's definitely athletic and talented, and we're sure glad we have him.
Marcus Coleman was kind of that type of person last year. Wow, and then he had a few woes in there. Has he gained that consistency?
We'll see. I think so. I see a more consistent guy in the room, and I always tell him, this is the dress rehearsal right here. It's hard to go across the street and just be the guy if you haven't been the guy in here. And what we saw last year in the practice room was kind of those up and down days. I've seen more good days. When you can get really consistent here and really good in there, it's easy to go over there. But if you can't fake it, you got to understand that this is a laboratory. This is where we test stuff, and this is where we get tough, and this is where we break guys, and all those wrestling terms. And so that's something I think he's improved on. But he's still only a sophomore.
The other thing, just since you've been here year 3, there's a lot more depth in the room and just quality depth. How crucial has that kind of been to the program?
I like having a lot of guys in the roster. Coach Metcalf and Coach St. John just keep rolling their eyes every time I add a new guy. But I keep adding guys. You know, I love having Iowa guys in our roster. It's hard for me to turn down an Iowa State champ, and these guys turn out to be really great guys in the room and pretty darn good wrestlers. And right in the middle now, we got a bunch of really good Iowa guys, especially from like 57 to 84. So, and obviously 97 is a lot of Iowa guys, but yeah, we're fortunate that we don't have kind of a cap right now, and we can put a lot of guys in here. So we're working hard to build a facility to bust out and throw 6 mats down so we don't bump into each other, because when you have as many guys as we do, 4 mats, we bump into each other a lot. So.